Hi guys, it's Kamil here, and I'm coming here at 6 a.m. in the morning. I sat in front of the camera to talk about the Booker Shortlist. Before we get there though, I'll talk about the books I've read that were longlisted. And I'm not here with us anymore, so rest in peace. Snap! This is a very entertaining, full of snappy dialogues crime story with fantastic kids characters. I really enjoyed it a lot. Aside of idiotic trope of illogical pregnant woman, I mean, I maybe not have seen all of the pregnant women, but I've seen a few and none of them sounded illogical to me, really. So my sister is pregnant right now, the other one was pregnant twice, and they're perfectly logical human beings. But aside of that and the fact that it should not be longlisted, really, as this is not on the Booker level. It really was super entertaining. From A Low and Quiet Sea by Donald Ryan. This is more of a set of 3 novellas coming together at the very end, rather than a typical novel, but it's underlining the humanitarian message of being responsible for each other in the times of crisis, which I loved. But it has a very topical theme, immigration crisis, and it didn't do anything special with it. So I wasn't a huge fan, which is the more surprising taking into account the fact that I love sociologically and politically involved novels. Yes, Jenner Pembeck and Gone when gone. Yeah, this one didn't really did it for me, and also it didn't strike the believability factor, which also affected the whole experience. Then I have Sabrina by Drnaso, and there was as much of controversy concerning this one as there was around Snap. Both genre novels picked up for the long list when the jury consists of the crime writer and the graphic novel writer. You know, it looks like people are really biased. I don't mind graphic novel on the long list, and I wouldn't mind it on the short list. Couple of hundred years ago, novels were also looked at as the bastards of literature. So times are changing, and Sabrina makes a really good commentary on media and the era of self-proclaimed whistleblowers of all surrounding conspiracies. This is a story of a young woman killed in a bestial way that triggers a reign of conspiracy theories. This is a perfect company book to the video I recorded a few weeks ago on the history of the press. As in the last part of that video I talked about Trump and the fact that we live in the world where social media and the internet became a perfect escape for the people that are lost in our reality and who flourish living in the bubble of the alternative facts and theories. Drnaso in a very dark way talks about the nature of media and the truth, and especially the erosion of the latter. I believe it was pretty brilliant. Not the easiest graphic novel to get through though. It took a bit of work to read it. Then I have In Our Mad and Furious City by the man with the hardest name, Gunaratne. He was a creator of, among others, Picador, a social documentary platform that produced human rights documentaries. I believe some of them were from Sri Lanka, Uganda or Guatemala. I link his TED Talk in the box below. So, knowing his resume a bit, you are not surprised that his long-listed novel looks upon London from the perspective of migrant, working-class, impoverished and mostly brown neighborhood. This is told through voices of mostly young men, and it's an angry, tense and crime novel, taking as a starting point a real event of a murder of off-duty soldier Lee Rugby, killed by radicalized Muslims on the street. The novel is set in the time of unrest and showcases the community under the ostracism. People looked at through the place of where they live, what God they believe in, and through the color of their skin. So in the way minorities are generally looked at as a mass, Gunaratne builds the storyline through different characters as he was trying to break that group narration. You know, the fact that this world feels like on the verge of breaking apart makes the reading a very engaging and a bit stressful experience, as, you know, I couldn't put it down needing to find out how all of them would end up. This is an impressive debut novel with a good social commentary, although some of it felt a bit like a shortcut or the most obvious explanation of the situation. Some of the choices that the characters made felt as much as real they might be as a bit self-perpetuated, and but that's probably what's the most truthful about it. Yes, it was good, but not great. Although good, you know? Then I have Warlight by Ondaatje. I'm really surprised that this is not shortlisted, being honest. I'm not done with it yet, and so far it feels like a prelude to the story that I'm waiting for, while I kind of know that it will never become anything other than that, than this prelude. As this is probably one of those quiet books that are smart, low-key, and won't thunderstorm your world. But the reading experience so far is brilliant. This is my first Ondaatje and I love it. I love the writing style. I've heard he had changed it a bit, and in the previous books it was more elaborate, but here it's elegant, settled and clean, and I love it. This book feels to me like coming back home due to the writing style. As for the plot, it's a post-World War story set in England, focused on two teenagers left by their parents who had to leave due to some vague work obligations in the hands of a shady man called the Moth. Doesn't sound like a crazy, thrilling, full of suspense joyride? Well, because it's not that. But I enjoyed it so far, and the writing style, maybe even more so the feeling I get reading it, reminds me a bit of Wallace Stegner. Milkman by Anna Burns. And this is how we get to the Booker shortlist, as the only book that I've read that is shortlisted so far is Milkman by Anna Burns. And I absolutely found it brilliant. So I'll start from this one. And the disclaimer here. I've listened to this and I believe it's important because it must have eased my way to this book, as so many people are raising the fact that it's not the most readable. While, being honest, I didn't feel that way at all. So Anna Burns created a historical novel that feels like a dystopian fiction that is set in a claustrophobic authoritarian society, described by the young female protagonist that uses a very specific, unusual language full of nicknames, bringing a lot of wit and humor with it, but also filled with descriptions on the verge of being repetitive, almost loop-like. Almost is the key word here, and I believe if I was reading it rather than listening to it, I might got tired reading another sentence of protagonist describing something, the very same thing with the third sentence sounding almost the same, but being actually different, adding another quality just because a few words were changed. There are descriptions like that, and I believe that being tired of that unusual narration makes you feel like some of sections are dragging a bit when you read it, because while you were listening to it, it was so greatly done that it was just absolute pleasure. And I know that it comes from the guy that said once that listening is inferior to reading, And I still think that in some ways it is, but in case of some books it might work actually better. I plan on reading it this year, so we will see how it goes. I really am looking forward to it because I believe that this is a brilliant piece of literature. Okay, since I've not read remaining 5 books that are shortlisted with Anna Burns, let me just walk you through what I think about the shortlist so far. I will read them, I already ordered them, but yeah. So more of my thoughts looking at the shortlist. The books I already described were, among others, about crime and the media. This is Sabrina, on migration crisis and the people often turning its back or profiting from it, from a low and quiet sea. The other one was on the impoverished, stigmatized communities of either social or racial minorities and inner city violence in our mad and furious city. On closed authoritarian society in a conflict with powerful empire and a woman that is desperately trying to get out of it. Milkman by Anna Burns. So it's interesting also that one of the judges describing the shortlist said that people reading it in 100 years' time would know that we have lived in the dark times. So I guess we cannot expect anything more than similar themes on the shortlist. Very social and politically present books. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm really happy about it because you know that I love politically and socially involved books. So on the shortlist we have a book written in verse, The Long Take, by the poet Robertson, and this is about the World War veteran with post-traumatic stress disorder. Then we have Edugyan with Washington Black, and this is about slavery, but if we take it to our current times, it's about limitation put upon racially stigmatized societies. Then we have Overstory by Richard Powers, and this sounds to me like a warning against ecological degradation, and correct me if I'm pulling it a bit too far. Then we have Rachel Kushner with The Mars Room. And this one is about female prison life and, quote, corrupted dreams. The corrupted dreams is the slogan that you will see almost everywhere where this book is discussed. So that was a quote. Then we have Daisy Johnson with a debut novel, Everything Under, that takes upon transitions and fluidity of gender, so extremely current theme. So it looks like the judges picked the books that should stand as spokesmen of our times, you know. What's interesting also, the best-selling books of the Booker Longlist, Ondaatje with his Warlight, Bauer, Snap, Rooney's Normal People, or Drnaso, Sabrina were left out. And I find it interesting because we talked so much about, also here on BookTube, about the fact that the presence of Sabrina or Snap or Normal People is the proof of Booker opening to wider audience and is making those bold choices, or maybe blasphemous ones, to be more accessible, while those were cut out. Which makes me happy because I believe we've way too often in general jump to criticism instead of just letting people do their job and wait what comes out of it. So far, Booker reading experience for me was more than positive, and I really do hope that the shortlist will be similar. I definitely am looking forward to reading those. I already ordered them. Oh, no, that's not true. I prepared the basket, but I haven't ordered it. I will do it today in the evening or tomorrow. And let me know what you think of all of that, which books out of the long list or short list you have read or are planning to read, and which one of shortlisted one you think will win. And I'll get back to you soon with another video. Okay guys, bye bye, now it's time for me to edit this video and run to work. Bye bye.